Hello friends, welcome you all to another video, and today we are going to start with our unit number 2, that is the plays. I have skipped 3 literary terms which were included in our unit number 1, and we are going to conduct it or take or talk on that in another lectures, or when the lectures resume or offline lecture will start. I will discuss on those matters, those terms in the lecture halls, or otherwise if it doesn't start, we will start it in another lectures. Okay, so we have two options. One is the All for Love, which was written by John Dryden, that is the restoration tragedy or heroic play, and the Comedy of Manners, that is the She Stooped to Conquer, which was written by Oliver Goldsmith. And I preferred She Stooped to Conquer because it is a comedy. Okay, and I'm also going to give you a brief summary of All for Love after end of uh, this play. So today we are going to only see the Olive Goldsmith information and about the character list of this play, She Stoops to Conquer. And that subtitle of this play is Or the Mistakes of an Evening, and it was written by Oliver Goldsmith. Oliver Goldsmith was born in 1713 and he was died in 1774. Let's talk about the author's information. So, as I have already told you that She Stooped to Conquer was written by Oliver Goldsmith. And Oliver Goldsmith was a playwright, he was also novelist, poet, and essayist. And his memorable novel, the name of his novel is The Vicar of Wakefield, and it was published in 1766. His most memorable poems are The Traveller, which was published in 1764, and The Deserted Village, which was published in 1770. So he was an excellent writer who was admired by the greatest authors of his day. So Goldsmith was born in Ireland as the son of an Anglican minister. After graduating from Trinity College in Dublin, Ireland, he studied medicine at the University of Edinburgh in Scotland and the University of Leiden in the Netherlands. Then he roamed Europe, eking out a living by playing the flute and begging. After arriving in England in 1756, he worked as an apothecary helper, a physician, an assistant teacher at a school, a translator of text, and an author of magazine and newspaper articles. After establishing his reputation as a major writer, he spent his money just as quickly as he made it, gambling frequently, and he was almost always in debt. Though a polished writer, he was a clumsy conventionalist. Though many of his fictional characters were attractive and desirable, he himself was homely when socially inept and a poor manager of his business affairs. Samuel Johnson, the great essayist, poet, critic, and lexicographer, said of him, "No man was more foolish when he had not at a pen in his hand, or more wise when he had." Okay, so let's talk about the historical context of She Stooped to Conquer, because already, I have told you about the author's information and his brief biography also there. So, as I have told you that he was born in Ireland to English Irish parents, Ollie Goldsmith rose from obscurity to join the ranks of the most prominent literary figures of his time in London. After graduating from college in Dublin, he dropped out of medical school and traveled around Europe on foot with little money before settling in London in 1756. There he first worked as an apothecary assistant before turning to work as a writer for the daily papers. He wrote poems, plays, short stories, and novels. His lively, readable style earned him the respect of more prominent writers, including the philosopher Edmund Burke and Samuel Johnson, the essayist who composed the English language first high quality dictionary. Despite his acceptance into these high circles, Goldsmith was known to be deeply envious of his friends, awkward, ashamed of his physical appearance, a drunk, a gambler, and an extremely bad manager of his own money. His friends often remarked on the contrast between his disorderly personal life and his clear, well organized, and stylistic, beautiful writing. And he was died in 1774 after failing to seek medical care for a treatable kidney infection. let's talk about the historical context of the play. The play takes place during the long and relatively peaceful reign of King George III, a time of social metamorphosis for Britain. The agricultural revolution had and led to an unprecedented increase in agricultural production and a massive consolidation of farmland, which in turn sent many of Britain's rural dwellers into the city looking for work. Class divisions were slowly but surely becoming more pronounced as the Industrial Revolution in its very early years was creating a new class of working poor in the increasingly populous cities. Simultaneously, as a new sense of cosmopolitanism began to develop among these cities' wealthy urban elite, they began to see themselves as superior, more cultured, and worldly than people of the same class who lived in the countryside, the landed gentry. This social dynamic set the stage for many of the interactions institutes as Marlowe and Hastings, two young city slickers, a journey to the countryside to visit the Hardcastles. Marlowe's condensation towards Hardcastle, for example, even though it is the result of his mistaken belief that Hardcastle is an innkeeper, draws laughs because it plays on Hardcastle's sensitivity to this newly emergent hierarchy between the cultured city dweller and the country bumpkin. So talk about the type of play. So you know that this play is a comedy of manners, and the comedy of manners is ridiculous the manners, the way of life and social custom, etc., for a certain segment of society. In this case, the upper class, the play is also sometimes termed a drawing room comedy. The play uses farce, including many mix ups and satire to poke fun at the class conscience of 18th century Englishmen and to satirize what Goldsmith called the weeping sentimental comedy so much in fashion at present. Let's talk about the setting of the play. So most of the actions takes place in the Hadcastle's mansion in the English countryside about 60 miles from London. The mansion is an old but comfortable dwelling that resembles an inn. A brief episode takes place at a nearby tavern, the Three Pigeons also. The time is 18th century. So let's talk about the character list of this play. That is the last part of this lecture. So, characters. Number one is a Mr. Hardcastle. He is a middle aged gentleman who lives in an old mansion in the countryside about 60 miles from London. He prefers to the simple rural life and its old fashioned manners and custom to the trendy and pretentious ways of upper crust London. His wife, Mistress Dorothy Hardcastle, unlike her husband, she yearns to sample life in high society. She also values material possessions and hopes to match her son by her first husband, because it is her second marriage to her castle, with her niece Constant Navily, in order to keep her niece's inheritance in the family. The main hero of this play is Charles Marlowe, promising young man who comes to the country to woo the Hardcastle's petty daughter, Kate Hardcastle. His only drawback is that he is extremely shy around refined young ladies. Although he is comfortably at ease and even forward with the women of humble birth and working class status. He is a proverbial character in the play used by Arthur Goldsmith to satirize England's preoccupation with and overemphasis on class distinctions. However, Marlowe's redeeming qualities make him a likable character, and the audience tend to root for him when he becomes the victim of a practical joke, resulting in mix-up and mistaken identities. Let's meet the heroine of this play, that is the Kate Hardcastle. She was a very pretty daughter of the Hardcastle who is wooed by Charles Marlowe. When he mistakes her for a woman of the lower class, she allows him to continue to mistake her identity, thus freeing his captive tongue so she can discover what he really thinks about her. Let's meet of her half brother, that is a Tony Lumpkins, son of Mr. Hardcastle by her first husband. He is a fat, ale drinking young man who has little ambition except to play practical jokes and visit the local tavern whenever he has a mind. When Tony comes of age, he will receive £1,500 a year. His mother hopes to marry him to her niece, Constant Navily, who is in the line to inherit a cascade of jewelers from her uncle. Tony and Miss Navily despise each other, they hate each other. Let's meet another hero of this play, that is a George Hastings, who is a brother, sorry, who is a friend of Charles Marrow, and he loves Constance navally. While Marrow is busy with Kate, Hastings is busy with Constance. Hastings hatches a plan to elope with Constance and receive the help of Tony, who wants to erase Constance from his life, and his mother's constant efforts to match him with Constance. Constance Navely, the another heroine of this play, that is a comely young lady who loves George Hastings, but he is bedeviled by Mistress Hadcastle's schemes to match her with Tony. Constance, and she was an orphan, is the niece and ward of Mr. Hardcastle, who holds Miss Navely's inheritance in her possession until she becomes legally qualified to take possession of it, and the cousin of Kate. Next character, that is the Charles Marrow's father, whose name is also Charles Marrow, but Sir Charles Marrow, father of young Charles. And then another minor character are servant in the Hadcastle household, maid in the Hadcastle household, landlord of the three pigeons all house, first fellow, second fellow, third fellow, fourth fellow, drinking companions of Tony Lumpkins. So guys, I hope that you understood the characteristic and background of this play, and also the little bit information about Olio Goldsmith. So if you have any kind of queries, any kind of problem, please ask me in comment section. I'm there to solve your problems. So thank you for watching and see you in the next video.